This dream would serve as an objective view and demonstration of how whatever we cling to, whatever we agree with, the ideas and emotional attachments, what we fantasize about, can and will project us into future lifetimes in accordance with the particulars of that which we have projected through our cause and effect experience forging idea creations. We can literally go so far as to create entire dimensions, worlds and universes that are based on what we are emotionally engaged with, like Star Wars type worlds, or those closely resembling the computer games that individuals may be very attached with, and may find themselves there as a future life position. Anyway, I found myself initially on a train, on a journey of a kind, heading through streets and cities. The journey skipped a few scenes, and I had arrived at my destination. Seems I was in the presence now of a group of gangsters, or gangster-type individuals, and one of them was the actor, now deceased, James Gandolfini. He played the part of Tony Soprano in the gangster series The Sopranos, and although that was, yes, just a fictional television program, the individual, James, was very much in character as Tony Soprano, with the same attitudes and way about him, and the sort of scenes you may have expected to see him in the television series, as we would jump through several scenes of a gangsterish nature. Then I was suddenly in rather a curious place, a natural enough setting, though very overgrown, and a large circular impression in the ground, as though something vast had impacted it and left a crater. The only part of this setting one could be, if not wishing to tumble down and explore the area below, was the rim of this crater-like impression. I had the impression I was in someone's subconscious. The rim of this crater was very overburdened with tangly weeds, and I felt these to be tap lines. So we have here effectively someone's causal body, and all the tap lines represent all the agreements and attachments that restrict the individual, and according to the nature of the ideas and attachments, dictate the individual's continued experience through the process of cause and effect. Joining me now was the individual whose subconscious it was. It was the deceased actor, James Gandolfini, and he accompanied me through the tangly, overgrown section of the outer rim. He was still portraying as his Tony Soprano part, wearing the sort of suit he would in that series, and we crawled around and around this tangled area. In the weeds there seemed to be other artifacts, and I was pointing them out to James. There were curious robots, miniature trains. Things were becoming more and more technologically orientated, and it seems only I could see these things. As we proceeded through the tap-lining mass of vines, I attempted to point out these anomalies, but James would simply continue on in a perpetual forward motion around and around this perimeter. Then there was a break in the dense vegetation, and an enormous flying saucer-like spacecraft landed before us, and I would inquire of James if he could see this, but alas, it seems he could not. Then suddenly James was gone, and I was alone in his subconscious, and all the more advanced technological artifacts and the spacecraft were sat now in the crater. Then there was another individual who was trying to get me to allow him access to this technology. I had a sense of ill intent from this finely suited elderly man. Seems he couldn't claim the artifacts for himself, and as I impressioned that he was not to be trusted, and probably wouldn't use them for a beneficial purpose, I would deny him, even as he tried to convince me with the promise of vast sums of money. Then the dream would end. This dream demonstrates that which we focus on will project us into future lifetimes in accordance with our focus through cause and effect idea creating experience. And if we do not experience it in this lifetime, we may well have lifetimes reflecting our ideas and attachments, desires and goals unrealized in this life. Seems then this may also include any identity we become attached with. All personality types, attitudes, and ways of conduct are again created ideas, part of the created consciousness we have constructed as our personal selves. They are as much restricting and future generating lifetime ideas as any. In this case, I would encounter James Gandolfini, the deceased actor, and seems I would view him in two places. Firstly, in a world where he was as much the gangster as he was in the fictional TV drama. He may have been on the Astral at this moment, and have recreated this fictional role and world, for perhaps he identified very strongly with his role, despite it not being real. For if he had no connection to his awareness and passed on, finding himself on the Astral, he may not know where he was, perhaps unable to recognize even this next life level up. Individuals passing over with no awareness can be in a kind of bewildered stupor on the Astral, drifting about in a haze of unrecognition until they get bored and drift back to the physical for another lifetime there. In the meantime, they may well reconstruct what they knew on the physical. As everything moves by thought and imagination on the Astral, they will recreate what seems comfortable for them, as they can't recognize anything beyond the physical level. A little like in the movie What Dreams May Come, where the deceased wife of Robin Williams recreated a version of her house on the Astral, along the lines of how individuals have houses on the real side that represent a reconstruction of their personal selves, but the unaware may well remain within them, as they cannot recognize the possibility of anything beyond their personal selves or the houses that represent them. And so here, James had reconstructed the part and the series he played in, that evidently he was very attached with, or perhaps was most familiar with, as he could recognize nothing of the astral level, and this then was his little created spot on the astral. He was once again playing the role of Tony Soprano, and I would be in his little created world for a time observing, and perhaps then I took the opportunity to afford him a chance to see more than his self-constructed consciousness and his creation here. I shifted to his subconscious, the vehicle and life level, where all his ideas, attachments, tap lines, where his created consciousness is. And there he was, crawling around and around this area. Maybe forever he might do this, lacking the awareness that he does. His 5 created vehicles just doing their thing, with no focus on anything but the personal self. All the vines were the tap lines, I would say, and maybe then I was the one bringing in these anomalous artifacts into his causal body, or someone was, and I would try draw his attention to these, something different and beyond what he had always known, beyond what his created consciousness currently is comprised of, in an attempt to spark a little awareness, a little curiosity maybe, to perhaps shatter the astral Tony Soprano world he had made for himself. Perchance this would filter down to his astral vehicle and motivate a re-evaluation, even to the extent of bringing a spacecraft down to land before us. But alas, his concrete, literal, self-convinced consciousness was such that he was unable to see these awareness-stimulating anomalies. His causal vehicle then, as vacant and difficult to engage as any of his others, and he would just keep on crawling through the dense tap lining of his causal body and fade from sight. I imagine he will stay in the astral a while, then eventually drift back to the physical. I had a sense that due to his strong attachment to the role he held so dear in the television series, he may well find himself in a life position resembling it. The experiences we set up for ourselves will be in keeping with the ideas that affect them, and I can imagine him finding himself as some gangster type in some part of creation somewhere in a dimension, or creation where such a position is available for him, even though the initial role as Tony Soprano was only fictional. We are the decider of our lives, and everything we choose for ourselves we can have, as creation is a reflective cause and effect bubble, even if what we unconsciously choose is based on a fictional role in a movie or other. Makes you consider, too, all the role models we are presented with. The heroes of the movie screen, or characters we identify too strongly, and we are deciding and choosing future positions resembling that which we idolize, that which we decide and agree with. As for the sinister character at the end of the dream, who seemed to want the anomalies that had been placed in the subconscious, suggesting a controller type who had a greater degree of recognition than James, as he could see the artifacts, but unable to claim them for himself. The artifacts representing something beyond the personal self, little sparks of awareness inducing light from the ears. They are there, yes, but require recognition. The dark forces can see only so far. They can literally think that they understand the ears and the knowledge of it, but lack the awareness to recognize it, lacking the awareness to understand how they can have everything they want without having to control, enslave, and own everything in order to get what they desire. And so the dark forces demonstrate their lack of awareness in what they do, not recognizing how through awareness and standing with the ears, they can have everything they want without cause and effect repercussions, and the need to manipulate and program agreement from others. That's the end of that one.
Wow, Kevin, terrific. Okay, Miss Kelsey, want to go next? Thank you so much, Kevin. Pierce and Peter, yes, thank you all. Wonderful.
Hi, everybody. You can listen to this recording on new Kevin Smith's YouTube channel. All of the recordings are uploaded onto Kevin's YouTube channel, and you can listen to the past recordings there as well. You would go to his YouTube channel, New Kevin Smith, click on videos, and all of the recordings are there. It's public, so anyone can find it, and you can share the link with anyone to watch. And you can go to wonderfulworldwideeducators.com under the Become Involved tab to see what time the calls are. If you need a reminder, there's also the meeting ID is on wonderfulworldwideeducators.com under the Become Involved tab. So if you want to call into this Zoom call, then there's a meeting ID there, or you can simply use the link that's there. I do usually every week put the link into Skype either the night before or 10-15 minutes before the call starts, but you don't need to wait for that link. It's actually on wonderfulworldwideeducators.com under the Become Involved tab at 24/7.